Hello and welcome back to part 16 of how to create an endless runner using Unity and C#. Today we're going to be doing a little bit more of the power-ups, so we're going to be making it so they're spawning throughout the level, and we're also going to be adding some more parts of our level to be randomly generated. So we're going to be adding more of these. And after all that, we are just going to do some optimizations to our code, and that will be our video for today. So we'll just get started by creating some more blocks to randomly generate a level out of. So to do this, we're just going to select our last one, which is block 5, and we're just going to duplicate it, maybe only twice, and then we'll just move them over. And then we need to create their prefabs. So we'll just drag them down into our prefab folder to make it so they're no longer aligned to this prefab, but now they're their own ones. So now we can change them and not affect this one. So we'll just come in and delete all of the obstacles. And I'll delete one of the coins on that one, and we'll just hit apply. And on this one, we'll delete all the obstacles as well. We're just going to add 2 that don't have anything that can hurt you on it, just so that there's somewhere, well, there's areas where the player is safe for a second. So this is where we'll spawn our power up. We'll probably do it on this one. So we'll just hit apply to this, and then we'll grab our power up spawn point, duplicate it. Actually, we don't need to duplicate it. We'll just take that one. Well, first we'll check which block this is. So it's block 5.1. So we'll just close up these to make this a bit easier. And then we'll grab our power up spawn point and drag it into block 5.1 and then position it. Hit apply. And so now this block here has a power up in it, and whenever it comes up in the level, we want it to spawn a power up. We'll have to do a bit more coding for that to happen. I'll explain why in a second. But first we'll make it so that these are actually a part of the level. Because if obviously we press play now, they're not going to be spawning because we haven't put them into our code at all. But if we come to our block spawner and we change our array size of our blocks from 5 to 7, and we just added 2, and then drag our 2 new ones in. Now our code knows about them, but if we come into our code for a second, and we just come over to our block spawn, we'll see, if we just have a quick look, where is it? Here, where we're choosing which random one to grab out of the array. We're only doing it from 0 to 5, but now we need to go from 0 to 7. But we obviously don't want to have to change this number every time we add new blocks. So instead, seeing we have an array called blocks, which contains all of the blocks, and this number needs to be equal to the size of that, we can just write blocks, blocks.length, and now this will be equal to whatever, just save that, that'll be equal to whatever we set this number to. So now if we just press play, we will be getting these 2 parts of the level spawning in, but there won't be any power-ups there just yet. So let's just play till we get up to one of those spots. And here's one of them. So they are being spawned in, but yeah, once we get to this one, as you can see, there's no power-up, so we'll need to fix that bit of code quickly. Just one thing quickly, you might have seen then that over here the blocks weren't being deleted properly, which I thought I fixed, but we'll just fix that again quickly. So if I just demonstrate it, play for a little bit, see how they're not being deleted, only the block which has the script, only the individual sprite inside of the block that has the script to delete the entire block is being deleted. So to fix that, it's pretty simple. We'll just come to our block delete, and then we just need to make a little change in here quickly. Okay, so all we want to do in here is just where we have the line that is deleting the block. At the moment, it's just destroying the game object, but because the game object that this script is a child of the entire block and doesn't basically have access to the entire thing just as a default like this, all we need to do is write transform dot parent. Wait, dot. I always get that parent, and then we just want to go game object. And so all this is going to do is, instead of just deleting the game object with the script on it and everything under it, it's going to delete the game object with the script on it and everything under it, as well as its parent, which means it will delete all the blocks. So we'll just save that up quickly. Show you that again. So as you can see, now the entire block's being deleted. Cool. So now that we have that, and we have our two new blocks in, and one that's our power up, but not working, we'll come back into our script, and we'll go to our power up spawn script. And in here, we're just going to have to make a few changes. So I'm pretty sure I've said it before, but the start function only happens on the first frame of the game, or the first frame that this script is called upon. And this script is being called upon to begin with at the very first frame of the game. So this only happens in the very first frame. So it was fine for our first power-up spawn point when it was just static and it wasn't a part of the generating world. But now that we have them coming in and out of existence, we need to be constantly checking whether or not there is one. So we're going to make that change. So to do that, we're just going to quickly copy this and put it up here as a public variable. And now that we have it assigned as a public variable up here, it can be accessed by the entire script, but we can also get rid of this little bit here because it already knows that it's a game object array. And so now we can start on the actual body of it. So we're going to want to get rid of our update because we don't really need it, and we'll replace it with a public void, which we're just going to call our power up spawn point check. And so basically we're going to use this to do this bit of code whenever we spawn a new bit of our world. So whenever we instantiate a new block, we'll be checking if that block had a power up spawn point in it, and if it did, we'll put a power up there. We're going to do it this way so that we're not constantly checking if there is a power up, and it will just save on a little bit of the CPU and stuff. So to do that, all we need to do is we can copy just this bit here and put it down into here. We don't need this in here, so we can delete that because that only needs to happen on the first frame because it's just to check what power-ups are unlocked in the store, which we'll be getting to in a later episode. So yeah, now down here, whenever we call this, we'll be checking what power-ups spawn points exist in the level, and for each of them, we'll be giving them a power-up. So there's one other thing we're going to need to do. In the current way it's set up, if we have a power-up and then we get another power-up before the other power-up's off the screen, the first power-up is going to get two power-ups assigned to it. I mean, the first power-up spawn point is going to get two power-ups assigned to it because it's going to come on screen and it's going to check if it exists, and it is, so it's going to get one. But then the other one's going to come on screen and it's going to check if it exists, and it is, but the other one's still going to exist, so they're both going to get a power up on that time. So to fix that, whenever we spawn in a game object and we find this tag on it and we do this bit of code, we just want to remove that tag so that then if we need to do this code again when it's still on screen, it won't be found. I hope that makes sense. It should hopefully make a bit more sense in a sec. So to do that, we just need to go our power up spawn point dot game object dot tag, and now we're just going to make the tag equal something else. So we're just going to make it equal untagged because we don't want it to have a tag. And And now all this says is we have our array of power-up spawn points, and that is every power-up spawn point that exists in the scene, and we are pulling out power-up spawn points out of that array of them, and for each one of them, if we find it, we're untagging it so it can't go through this process again, and then we're instantiating a random power-up in its place. Cool. So now that we have that, we still need to trigger this. And the best place to trigger this is obviously going to be whenever we spawn a new bit of the level, because we only ever need to check if there is a new power-up whenever a new bit of level's there, because that's the only time when a new one can appear. And again, this is just for optimization, so that we're not checking every single second to see if it is there or not. So to fix that, we just want to come over to our block spawn, and then in here we're just going to need to make a few little changes again. So like I said, all we need to do in here is just trigger the void that we just made, so that whenever we create a new block, we check if there's a spawn point there, a power-up spawn point there. So to do that, we are just going to add a little bit of code before our wait time. And this code we already have on our coin, so we can just copy it, or we basically already have in our coin. So we can come back over here and paste it in here. And so basically, the code that we have on our coin is referencing the object which is called our UI object, which is tagged with the tag UI, and it's getting the script on it called UI controller, and it's just +2 on our coins. The UI object, I'll just show you quickly. We have renamed it recently, but we didn't re-tag it. So if we come to our controller, you'll see this is called UI because this used to just control our UI, but now it's controlling everything. We would probably want to go through and change all of these over, but because we have it like all throughout our script and it's consistent, we'll just keep it like this because consistency is just going to be easier than going through and changing them all. So we need to reference this object, but we need to get a different script off it because we don't want to get the UI controller script. We want to get the power-up spawn script, so we get that script instead. We're not going to be feeding any numbers into its void. We just want to trigger its void so we can get rid of the numbers. And then the void that we want to trigger, we called power-up spawn point check. Cool. So now that we have this in place, basically all it says is we get that object and we get this script and we trigger this part of the script. And we just set that part of the script up. And all that bit of the script does is check if there is a power-up spawn point, and if there is, it gives it a spawn point. It gives it a power-up. And so the reason we're doing it like this is so we're not just constantly checking like 50 times a second, or like even more, because we're not doing this in the fixed update, so it'd be going like kind of crazy if we did it in update. So instead, we're only doing it periodically whenever we spawn a block. So now that we have that, we can come back into our game. And we had that thing. So if you ever have this thing go on, like happen, just zoom in to wherever it's gone to, press 2, and just go backwards. And then once you get back to where you want to be, press 2, and then you'll be able to zoom in and out back on the right spot again. Cool. So now that we have all of that, we should have our power-ups. I'll just mute the audio for this, press play. Get up to a point where we have a power-up. Getting heaps of the other one, but not the power-up block. Okay, cool. So now we can collect our power-ups, and we have an active power-up. And as you can see, it's random, because now we have different ones, and because the way we set it up, we can have 2 on the screen at the same time, and they only get 1. Awesome. So that's the main part of this episode today. Now we're going to go through some optimizations. So to do that, we are just going to have to go back into our code quickly. So we just want to open up Visual Studio, and we just want to go to our coin script, because this is where we're going to be doing our optimizations today. So like we just went through a second ago, we don't want to be calling for objects every single second and finding them. If we can break it down and make it so we're not calling, well, looking for tagged objects like every microsecond and make it so we're only doing it when we need to, our game's obviously going to run a little bit better. So if we have a look here in our fixed update, we have some arrays that we are assigning with objects from our world with tags. But we're doing our fixed update, so we're doing this 50 times a second, which for this game isn't really a problem. But seeing these kind of games are mainly made for mobile, we're probably going to want to fix this up a little bit. So instead of doing it like this, we are just gonna, well, we can start by copying these, but we're basically going to do exactly the same thing as before, and we're only going to check for these whenever a new part of the world is generated and when it actually matters. So we'll copy them and put them up the top, and we'll just make all these public variables. And then we can get rid of this part. Don't forget to end all your lines. And cool, so now we have them stored up here. They can be accessed all throughout the script, and that won't be a problem. But now that also means we can cut these out from here. And instead we are going to do it in its own void, which we are just going to have at the bottom. And so, where is this going to go? Just here. It's going to be a public void, so it can be triggered outside of this script. And it's just going to be called level check. And like I said, it's just going to serve the same function as the void we just set up. So we'll just paste these in here, and we'll only be doing this when we are checking the level. So we'll save that quickly. And we're going to make a few other changes, but we'll just get this part working first. So come back over to our block spawn, copy this line, and paste it, and change this over to our coin script, and then we want to change this over to level check. So now whenever we spawn a block, we are checking if we have a power up spawn point, but we're also checking if we have a coin magnet, if we have a magnet, if we have a 2 times coin, or where our coins are and how many we have. So now that we have all that, we can save that up quickly, make sure that's working. So as you can see, we can't get our coins now. We can fix that up pretty easily, so we'll just come back up into our script for a second, and let's just have a quick look. Yeah, so I just had a quick little look, and I'm pretty sure, I actually haven't tested it yet, but I'm pretty sure it's just because we didn't remove this yet. So now we're assigning them as new ones and not the ones that are consistent throughout the entire script. So if we just save that, come back in, press play. Now it should hopefully be working. Cool. So we'll just get to a power up to double check them. And the power ups aren't working now, so that's our next problem. If we come down to our console, you'll see we're getting a heap of missing references. So to fix that is pretty simple. We just need to add some if statements. So where do we want these? After we check if the array is false. Wait, no, that's if we're checking if the coin magnet is false. We want to check if the actual coin is false. So we're just going to go if coin equals false, and we'll do, if coin doesn't equal false, then we'll do whatever's inside of there. And then we can just copy this, and we want it down here as well. So if coin doesn't equal false, do that. And then down here we want a similar thing, so we can paste it in, but then we obviously want to change this to, actually, do we want it in this spot? Yes, we do, and we don't need to change it. So we'll just chuck that in, because this is still affecting coins. But once we get down here, this is where we need to change it a little bit. So we come down, whoops, see. If we just come down into our for each loop, and just after the for each, we can just do a check. So we'll paste it in, but here we'll be changing this to magnet. And then after we do that, so now that can only happen if the magnet exists. And then we want to do the same thing for this. And again, this is optimizations because this is going to make it so the game is doing less stuff, basically. Cool. And then our bracket. Now we can save that up. And we'll have a quick look. I don't think that would have fixed our power-ups. We'll have a quick look. So now when we hit a coin, we're not getting null references. Once we get to our power-up, we can get our power-up. Cool. So I guess that was just part of the same problem, the power-up. So now that we have them working, we have, I think, nearly most of our optimizations happening. Because basically now we're not checking these 50 times a second. We're only checking them a little bit over a little bit over a second, because a little bit under a second, because we are checking whenever we spawn a new level. A new block. So if we come into our game and press play, whenever this happens, this is whenever we are checking all of that stuff. Instead of doing it 50 times a second, obviously that's going to work a little bit better. So now that we have that, I think that should be just about it. We can go over the code quickly if I can't think of anything else. Wait, there was one more thing I wanted to fix up. So if we just come into Unity quickly and we press play, you'll notice when we hit something, have a look at our blood, how long it lasts, and basically how it just deletes out of nowhere. We forgot to do something when we set that up. So if we come down to our particle system, we're only meant to have looping on temporarily. So if we just turn that off and press play, you'll see now I get much less blood, and it doesn't delete. Like, it doesn't just stop existing for no reason. It now lands on the ground, and yeah, it just looks a lot nicer. Cool. So now that we have that little thing in as well, we'll just go over the script quickly. So what have we done? We have added in all of this function, which basically just makes it so that we can have power-ups throughout the level, because it checks if there are any power-ups, and if there are, it spawns them. If there's a power-up spawn point, and if so, it puts a power-up in its spot, and then untags the spawn point so it can't create another one. We're triggering that in here, and we're also triggering our level check in here. And our level check is happening in the coins, and it is just getting all of our excuse me, it's just getting all of our coins, our magnets, and our power-ups, just so the player knows where they are. And because we're doing it like this, we're just saving up some CPU. And yeah, I think that's basically all we really did. Because we changed over this, we had to put some extra if statements into here just to make sure everything was running nicely. But yeah, today we covered a fair bit. We now have the ability to easily add blocks and make it so they can be randomly generated. And we have our power-ups spawning throughout our level. And we have some pretty good optimizations that are just making it so that we're not constantly checking and refilling our arrays multiple times a second. So yeah, if you found this video helpful, please like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.